Greetings, YouTube. I actually had an opportunity to look at the magazines that I got sent recently. I actually stopped and watched a few less Skyrim videos. And so I'm going to talk about today about the Excavator Monthly from Outland Arts, and this is for the Mutant Epoch game. Now, as I said when I did my unboxing on these recently, there is something wonderfully tangible about having a gaming magazine in my hands. And yes, I realize that that may be old school, and I may be clinging to the echoes of the past, you know, my love of dead tree versions of publications. I mean, I've got shelves of them behind me, and my friends are probably still pissed at me for having to carry all this stuff into my home. But the experience of holding it in your hand, of reading it, of referencing it, of being able to hand it to someone at the table, these things are important to me. Now, digital things are fine. I mean, this device right here in my hand, this tiny little device, it's a USB drive, okay? It'll hold 4 gigabytes of data. That's a lot of gaming files, okay? But it's not the same. It's nice, it's searchable, very convenient, but it's not the same. So what do you get for your money when you purchase a paper version of a magazine? Well, obviously the contents are the same as the digital version, but I'm still biased, and I apologize. But what you get, however, is a whole lot of information that is very useful to a GM or a player that is going to run a post-apocalyptic setting. And yes, these are house magazines in the sense that they are designed by the company putting out the Mutant Epoch game. But I do not think for a heartbeat that any GM worth the title could not use these in any PA system they like. Now, I'll admit, of the PA systems that are available in the market today, I think the Mutant Epoch is probably the best there is. I've looked at a lot of them. And even amongst the ones that are just available on the market, in the sense that, you know, you can still get copies of older editions that are out of print and things like that, I still think the Mutant Epoch is right up there as one of the best. And I think that you just can't lose with using that system and using these magazines for inspiration, even if you're not playing the system itself. But if you haven't looked at it and you're a lover of that genre, go get a copy. You're cheating yourself. And each of these magazines has specific issue topics. You know, for example, ruin ecology. Are you the hunter or prey? So you have, you know, specific issues have specific articles, but you also things like evolutions, monsters, new mutations, mutant creatures to look at, new technology, weapons, non-weapons, articles dealing with NPCs, so that you don't have to come up with the necessity of rolling up your own, which means you can use them straight out of the box, or out of the magazine, I should say, or you just file the numbers off and make slight modifications and use them again, and your players are never going to know. The art is quite interesting. Though I gotta tell you, I don't think I want to go through life with only 2 digits on each hand, one of them being a big claw. I happen to be a fan of the line art a little bit more than the painted art. I just happen to really like the aesthetic, and it really brings back to me that old school feeling of PA games that I loved when I was younger, or still love. There's some really nice mutant creatures. How to meet meeting comrades. How did your characters know each other? Which is a good thing to know in any campaign, regardless of the genre. How the party got together is often a contentious point, and it's the classic, oh, they met in a bar. In a PA setting, it's even a little more bizarre because you have such a degree of variety of place to place, probably more than you do in your average setting otherwise. And PC generation vat, gambler system, so a different variety of means of coming up with your characters, which is kind of nice. And we also have this very cool spider bot, which I was very much impressed with. I happen to like the idea of legged creatures. We're working on building them right now. I actually have a friend that's working on one of the military legged robot projects right now, which is kind of cool. But for me, the money shot of these issues are the random charts. Now you're going to say, well, what's the use of random charts? Well, when you're running a PA game, coming up with random loot and things like that is a monumental task. Because if you're using the same charts every single time, your loot is going to get very monotonous. Okay? And you could say, well, you're basing it on a PA game, so that means like the room you're in is treasure, isn't it? And you're right, the room you're in is treasure. I sit in the same room every time I do those adventures, or I sit in the same home at least. So again, if I'm referencing items in the room I'm sitting in, particularly this one, yeah, there's some cool things in here, but they're going to end up popping up again and again. So having those random charts to reference is going to keep the creative gears spinning, so that your loot and the texture of your game is going to have a greater variety and reflect the world at large more than just a little tiny microcosm you have of what is around you, the GM. So I think that Excavator Monthly is a magazine that is applicable to anybody who likes post-apocalyptic settings, regardless of the system that you use. I think that you really can't go wrong with looking at these if you're into gaming magazines. So I recommend it. I thank Mr. McGoslin for sending these to me. They're quite enjoyable, and I think that if they keep the quality up like this from his company, that they're going to be doing just fine. And we actually have a special guest today. My wife made this for me last night. She and her friend were being creative and crafty. So now I have a little mutant squid to join my collection of strange and bizarre things in my office. So here you go. Can you come up with a mutant squid NPC?